This is Histories and Mysteries Uncovered. I'm Ashley.
And I'm Jessica. And on this week's episode, Ashley is going to be talking about the tri-state tornado.
Mm-hmm.
And I will be talking about a haunted painting
Ooh.
called The Hands Resist Him.
Oh.
And I won't be able to post a photo because I have to get the artist's permission.
Oh, okay.
And I don't want to do that. So,
Yeah. So Google it.
Google the photo, but beware because there's stuff with it.
Oh, I'm not going to Google it.
You have to Google it because you have to understand
Am I going to get haunted if I Google
my
it?
story. I don't think so. I'm fine.
Ugh.
And I was looking at it the whole time.
We'll see. I'm going to hear your story first, and then I'll decide if I'm going to Google it.
You have to Google it to understand the story.
Just describe it to me.
Okay.
Yeah, so I decided to dip into Jessica's territory this week because somehow I got on tornado TikTok. So I'm getting like all these not like fun facts, but like facts about tornadoes, which I also find very fascinating. So I was like, ooh. And then I saw this one about the deadliest tornado in history. And I was like, oh, I want to know more about that. So I have a little bit of information on it. And then I have like a firsthand account from a lady who is no longer with us because it happened in 1925. So she's dead by now. But they interviewed her in 2017 when she was 97. So.
Well, it's funny because I never wanted to watch the movie Twister because I'm like, how the hell is this going to be an interesting movie? A fucking tornado.
I love Twister.
It was good. I saw
It's
like
so good, right?
snippets and snippets and pieces of it not too long ago with Kyle, and it wasn't bad. Like
You've never seen the whole thing?
No.
Oh, it's good. You gotta watch it.
I saw when dude came into town with his other girl. And they like met up at the cafe, or they were off to get a tornado. I don't know where I jumped in, but
it's so good. They even made a ride off of it, Universal, for a number of years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, when we went when I was little, you would like go in and stand behind this like wall, and they had like a whole scene where they would show what it would happen if like a twister came through. They don't have it anymore, but it was so cool.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, it's so weird with certain movies. I've never seen them in their entirety.
Mm-hmm.
I always see them in pieces. Or for some reason, whenever I turn on like the TV and say it's playing, it always starts in the same, like I always get to it at the same place.
Oh, that's
so
funny.
There's so many movies that I have never seen in their entirety, but I know how they end.
Well, you got to watch Twister in its entirety because it's not only about a tornado, it's about relationships with,
I understood
good old
the
Helen Hunt
during the movie.
But it's so good.
Like, total gist of it. Two people fell in love over their hunt for tornadoes. Douchebag ran away to be with the other things, and then he found love, and then he came back. And then Douchebag and Helen Hunt rekindled because of their love for tornadoes.
Yeah, it's great. And a cow flies by.
That's perfect. Oh,
yeah. So somehow I got on that side. So, so I decided to do the story, and I got my sources from Britannica, History, and the Washington Times.
Just history.
Yeah. Well, like history.com. Just history. Just that it happened.
Word of mouth.
And I do want to say that for the first account story from Betty, her name's Betty, how cute. I just copied and pasted from the Washington Times because it's all in her words. So I wanted it, to be from her. So the deadliest tornado in U.S. history hit on March 18th, 1925 in Missouri, Illinois, and Indiana, coining the name the tri-state tornado. When all was said and done, the destruction total was in the billions, and 695 people were killed and about 2,000 people were injured.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And then I'm going to tell her story, and then at the end, I'll give all the like stats on the tornado, like how big it was, how fast it was going, all that stuff. But it hit about 1 p.m. in Missouri and caught the residents of Ellington completely off guard. This is so stupid. I didn't know this. Their weather forecasts had been completely normal all day long. But at the time, the powers that be didn't want to cause widespread panic. So they just didn't forecast for tornadoes back then. And in fact, the word tornado was banned in U.S. weather forecasts up until 1950. Because they were afraid that they said that like the information that they had on the ability to forecast a tornado wasn't good enough to be able to give people enough warning, and talking about tornadoes would only incite panic instead of, letting them prepare.
I mean, I get it. It's real, but I mean,
at least if they told them like, hey, today's weather is going to be really bad, there is chances that this storm could create a tornado. Like, at least then they're like, can at least prepare somewhat.
Yeah, but you gotta understand public panic, right? People hear, and I feel like if people heard the word tornado, they'd go into a tizzy and cause a lot of problems. And, like Apocalypse Now, go into the grocery stores, fight over a bunch of like.
Yeah, but that's the world ending, not a
essentials and
tornado. I mean, we get
shit.
warnings now about tornadoes and nobody flips out.
Yeah, but people might have to hunker down for a while. You don't know how bad the tornadoes are going to get out
So
there.
shouldn't people be able to be prepared instead of caught off guard?
Yeah, and they're going to be prepared and go apeshit and kill
They don't do that
people.
now in tornadoes when you get warnings.
Well, you don't know that.
Anywho, so this tornado started in Ellington, moved through several towns in Missouri, including Annapolis, Missouri, which was a small mining town, not to be confused for Annapolis, Maryland, which is where the Naval Academy is. But the mountains that surrounded the town of Annapolis kept them from being able to see the tornado coming. So not only
I thought you said Indianapolis.
No, Annapolis. So not only were they not able to see the tornado coming, they also weren't warned of it. So they were just butts out, waiting for, having no idea that a storm's coming. I don't know why I said butts out, but that's what I said.
First thing that came to mind was pants party.
So in this town, 90% of their buildings were destroyed. Wow. 4 people were killed and 1,000 people were homeless. That's just in this
crazy.
Town. In Missouri, it killed 11 people total, and then it crossed the Mississippi River into southern Illinois, where it basically desolated the towns of Gorham, DeSoto, and Murfreesboro. Murfreesboro was hit the hardest and had 234 deaths. In total, the tornado killed... Well, that's not right. I wrote, in total, the tornado killed 200 people in Illinois. But I literally just said in this one town, 234 people died.
Yeah, but isn't that in Missouri?
No, that was in Illinois. Oh. So I'm guessing maybe that was supposed to be 300 people died in total. Then it crossed the Wabash River into Indiana, where it destroyed the towns of Griffin, Owensville, and Princeton, taking out 85 farms and killing another 71 people. It finally dissipated at about 4:30 p.m.
So why is it called tri-state? Like,
it went through 3 states.
So I get that, but when people refer to tri-state, is it a specific 3 states or
no? There's just 3 tri-state. Yeah.
Oh,
because it went through 3, so tri-state.
But I'm just saying, because you always hear like on TV shows, oh, it's in the tri-state. What's the tri-state?
I think generally, and please correct me if I'm wrong, listeners, I think generally when people say the tri-state area, they're talking about, nope, I don't know. I don't know. I was going to say Maryland, Virginia, and DC because they call that the DMV, DC, Maryland, Virginia, but DC isn't a state.
Like the tri-state
Yeah.
area.
I don't know.
I'm gonna
Okay.
Google it because now I'm tri-state area. Oh.
Is it not a specific area?
Oh, it's not. It was referring to what you had mentioned, but also usually refers, and this is what I thought, New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So in 2017, the Washington Times interviewed a survivor of the storm. At this point, Betty Maroney was 97 years old, but she was 7 years old when the tornado ripped through her town of DeSoto. So DeSoto was one of the towns in Illinois that was basically demolished. And this is her story.
Okay.
Betty remembers this day as an unusually warm and blustery spring day, recalling her 14-year-old brother Herschel and the other boys at the DeSoto school throwing their caps in the air to see how far the wind would carry them. Betty was wearing an Easter dress because her other clothes became soaked while she walked home in the rain for lunch. Then she went outside with her class at 2:30 p.m. for recess. She could barely stand against the strong winds that were already blowing ominously from the direction of Murfreesboro. As the sky surrounding the school turned black, her teacher led the students back to the classroom where she instructed the girls to take their seats and the boys to shut the windows. Betty barely sat down in her front row desk next to her 10-year-old sister Marie when the tornado struck the school at 2:38 p.m., killing 19 students in her classroom, including Betty's sister.
Oh no.
This story is really sad.
That's
Yeah.
horrifying.
With glass shattering around them, few of the boys shutting the window survived the storm. There was only 3 boys left in my class, Betty said. They were all killed in the tornado, all but 3. A total of 33 students died in the tornado, which was reportedly more than a mile wide. Which I'll get in, like I said, I'll get into the statistics, and I also have the kilometers for our Canadian friends. I was happy that day of the tornado, and just in a flash, I was desolate, Betty said. I didn't have a home. I didn't know the way home. It was all blown away. Betty stumbled through the bricks, wood, and tree limbs the storm had strewn across the town, finding her parents with the help of a man she calls Mr. Tippy. He held her hand while carrying his son in the other arm as they walked through the rubble, which, thank God, Mr. Tippy, what a nice guy.
Was his son alive?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when she met up with her parents, she knew the storm had injured her dad and her 6-year-old sister, Elsie, who had been home with her mom, and Betty's 6-month-old sister, Ruth, during the storm. Someone had tied what looked like a sheet around his head, her dad, and it was bloody, Betty said. Elsie had a cut on her head and it was bleeding, and they took us to DuQuoin Hospital, but when we got there, they had to put us in the basement. The hospital was full. Betty learned later that the tornado had blown her mother, Minnie, which, okay, I love these names. Elsie, Minnie, Betty. I think these are so cute. But the tornado had blown her mother, Minnie Barnett, against a tree moments after picking up Ruth, who suffered just 3 little scratches on her head. But the storm had flattened their house on what is now Cherry Street, and Betty's 12-year-old sister, Tina May, failed to return home from school after the storm.
Tina May.
After the tornado was over, nobody knew where anybody was, Betty said. You could be blown forever. 2 days later, searchers found the bodies of 3 girls in an outhouse that had blown across the railroad tracks that run today along Illinois 149 between DeSoto and Hearst. Betty's sister, Tina May, and 2 other girls, Ruth Taylor and Nellie Bell, sought refuge during the storm in the school's outdoor toilet. My mother never talked about the tornado in our house, just never. But I overheard her talking to somebody about that incident, and Mama said, you know, it's worrisome to think that they weren't killed. Maybe they starved to death because it took them. I don't think that they would have starved to death because it was only 2 days later. But I mean, as a mother, you can understand thinking that, you know.
Yeah, but it was probably if they were in the outhouse, they would have been jostled around. Like that could have been a lot of internal
Mm-hmm.
bleeding,
Yeah.
right? So hopefully they went
Yeah.
quick.
Hopefully. The week of tragedy continued 2 days later on March 22nd when Elsie died at the hospital, becoming the third sister Betty lost in a span of 5 days.
What?
In the months following the tornado, Betty's family lived in a quickly built one-room shack-like structure, but Betty was sent to live with her aunt and uncle while finishing up the school year in Hearst. Several months later, the family finished building a new home with help from the Red Cross, but shortly after moving in, more tragedy struck. Her father survived the tornado, but suffered serious head injuries and wasn't well after the storm. He died the next spring, leaving his wife, who was 3 months pregnant, to raise Betty, Herschel, and Ruth by herself.
Oh my
So Minnie
gosh.
lost two daughters and her husband in this tornado.
Oh my
I can't
goodness.
imagine what that poor woman went through. That was,
While
I
pregnant.
know. That was like my
It's like
grandma.
my worst
My
nightmare.
grandma, she was pregnant with my Uncle Rick. Um, and her husband died in the Air Force. And this was back in like the 19, I don't know, 40s, 50s. And so like,
Wow.
I think she was a teacher, but she didn't make, I don't know if she was a teacher yet or whatever, but here she is alone, pregnant. Like I can't, ugh,
No, it's the worst possible
ugh,
outcome. Well, one
yeah,
of the worst
yeah,
outcomes. Like there's a lot of really awful
yeah,
outcomes, but I worst nightmare
yeah.
for me.
Betty said that was 1925. We didn't have Social Security. You just did the hard way. My mother wasn't the only one that lost family. Our family had the most that were killed, but there were people who lost two children and several that lost one. Betty recalled the whole experience a nightmare, but said her mom never felt sorry for herself or said, poor me. She just always tried to make us feel good, Betty said. The storm wreaked havoc within the small community, with many families living for months in tents and others searching for loved ones and friends missing in the aftermath of the storm. Betty's friend, James Morrison, who was 5 at the time, went missing for 2 days after the tornado. His father had been working out of town during the storm and didn't know his son was staying at a home in Du Quoin. So imagine having this. Betty said this. Now imagine having a little boy, 5 years old, and you couldn't find him. John Parrish, then 5 years old, was with his dad on the back porch of their home on what is now Walnut Street in DeSoto, cutting off the power to prevent a fire when Parrish heard what he described as a freight train coming from the southwest. They went inside and, along with John's mother, were only able to reach the basement before the tornado. Oh, sorry, reached the basement door before the tornado hit. Parrish said his father purposely fell on his mom and him to shield them from the debris. He was hurt pretty bad, but we didn't get hurt because of him, Parrish said. His grandfather,
That's so
I
nice.
know. His grandfather didn't fare as well, with the violent winds bearing nails and pieces of wood in his head that the doctors weren't able to work out until a month later. So at least he lived, but pictures document how indiscriminate storm left Jackson County town a wasteland, with dirt roads stripped empty of the houses that hours before had lined the streets. All I remember was seeing all the horses. All I remember was seeing all the houses torn down, Parrish said. It tore 90% or more, I'm sure, of the houses down. Parrish's 9-year-old sister Lucy was able to escape the DeSoto school by crawling through the shattered window and piles of fallen brick. But seeing many of her classmates die left a permanent mark on her life.
No
Yeah.
kidding. That would traumatize
Yeah.
anybody.
She was scared, Parrish said. I can remember every time a dark cloud would come up, if she was out playing, she would run into the house and get under the bed. She couldn't stand it. I always felt so sorry for her. All the rest of her life, she was upset whenever they had a storm. So sad.
That's so sad. I hope she didn't live in it's like southern states get more tornadoes
Kind
and
of like the
such.
middle of the country,
Like
there's like a
Midwest.
line that goes up and down the whole country. That's called Tornado
Okay.
Alley.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
lovely. Hopefully she was able to move away from
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Poor girl.
Gorham was the first Illinois community impacted by the storm, which began in Annapolis, Missouri, and ended near Princeton, Indiana, with 34 in the community of 500 meeting their death at the hands of the tornado. 6 minutes after passing through Gorham and 4 minutes before the storm killed 69 people in DeSoto, the tornado passed through Murfreesboro, killing 234 and injuring more than 600 as it spread through the west end of town at more than 60 miles per hour. Eileen Jones, who now lives in DeSoto, was 6 and playing with her classmates on the Washington School playground in Murfreesboro when the clouds started coming up, she said. As teachers rushed students toward their classroom, the school principal told them instead to head immediately to the basement. We had just started down the basement steps when the thing hit, Jones said. There were chunks of stuff falling all around us. I wasn't hurt. It was a miracle that somebody wasn't hurt. But the schools on the west end of town had the brunt of the storm, with 17 students killed at Longfellow School. 5 students failing to escape the Logan School, which was almost completely leveled, and another 3 dying at the high school. Reports estimate that about 100 blocks of homes and buildings were destroyed in Murfreesboro, with resulting fires ruining another 70 blocks of town. Can you imagine what that looked like that night? Like, everything is decimated and there's fire. It must have looked like hell. Like hell.
Well, absolutely. And you don't, well, like the original storyteller said, she didn't know her way
Yeah.
home because nothing was familiar. Everything was just absolute
Yeah.
chaos and destruction. And she's also a
Yeah.
kid, right? So there's just a lot that can go through
Yeah.
your head as an adult. Imagine being a kid and experiencing all of that. That- Like, it's just
Yeah.
crazy.
Jones went on to say, the west end of Murfreesboro was all afire. We had to get a change of clothes and be ready to cross the river because the fires were coming. We could hear them dynamiting, trying to stop them.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is My Skeptical Sister. I'm Megan, the skeptical one. My arm and left hip sort of passed through it. It's called a shadow. Girl, shut
go ahead.
your mouth. And I'm Erin the Believer. Still to this day, we have no clue what we saw. Any ideas?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Already you have an
What
idea?
are your ideas? Let's go with you first.
That it was a demon monster?
like, how does your mind go demon monster?
Did you not hear glowing red eyes that slowly crept closer to their bed?
We might not agree on the paranormal, but we both love to hear your scary stories.
Yikes.
Ooh.
That is really creepy.
Yeah.
Our podcast is called My Skeptical Sister, and we'd love for you to check us out on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Also, follow us on TikTok and Instagram.
Come for the scares, but stay for the laughs.
How do you use dynamite to stop a
I have
fire?
no idea.
That makes no sense.
I don't know, maybe they were trying to like dynamite areas where like because this isn't like kind of mountainous. I just said like 700 times. This isn't a kind of mountainous area, so maybe they were trying to dynamite so that land would fall down onto the fires. You know what I mean?
Maybe. Maybe.
Parrish,
It's funny, my brain thought a different way.
what were you
but-
thinking?
Well, yours is probably the better option, but I figured that they were dynamiting buildings or trees or whatever that could catch on fire so that they could try and stop the fire in its tracks.
Oh. Yeah, I think mine's probably more right.
Sure. Go with that.
So Parrish, who spent the night after the tornado at his uncle's farm, remembers looking to the southwest and seeing the light from the fire. The whole sky was lit up. Everything was on fire in Murfreesboro. The fires were eventually contained, and Jones and her family didn't have to cross the river, but 90 years later, storms still rattle the 95-year-old who lives in DeSoto. Every time it would get a little dark, I'd get hysterical, Jones said. Still, if it gets a little black, I get to worry. They used to have to threaten me to settle down. I just thank the Lord every day that I made it through that. So not only was this tornado the deadliest in U.S. history, it was one of the farthest moving, fastest, and largest tornadoes in history. The wind reached speeds of 300 miles per hour or 480 kilometers per hour.
It's kilometer.
Is there a difference?
It sounds fucking weird.
Kilometers?
Kilometers.
I don't know. I think you could say either way,
We know how
right?
to say miles.
You can say either way, right? Kilometers, kilometers.
Yeah, if you're fucking British or Australian, I don't know. Don't come at me, Australia. I don't know how you talk.
We use the metric system in science, and I probably said kilometers, and then sometimes said kilometers. I don't know. I think it's like
Well, aren't kilometers something different because there's the weight kilo and the measurement meter versus kilometers?
I don't know.
We're gonna get castrated this episode.
Probably wrong. It's probably kilometers only.
People are like, these two dumb bitches.
They're such idiots. Which is sad because, like I said, we use the metric system in science, and I was a science major and was a science teacher.
A lot of things that you say make me question the fact that you were a science teacher. And I say that with lots of love.
Sure.
Noise.
So anyway, 480 kilometers per hour, which would give it a category of an EF5.
Yeah, that's insanity.
It lasted for 3.5 hours and moved 219 miles or 352 kilometers.
Wow.
Its width was 1 mile or 1.6 kilometers, and it moved at the speed of about 62 miles per hour or 100 kilometers per hour, with a peak speed of 73 miles per hour or 117 kilometers per hour.
That's what I do on the highway.
Yeah, that's how fast that tornado was going.
That's crazy.
That tornado was a beast.
Also, I think you had 3 categories of the tornado, like fastest, furthest,
Largest.
Yeah. And it's a tri-state tornado.
Oh.
It's the trifecta.
3. Well, and it's funny. I mean, it's not funny, but this tornado came from a storm system that created several tornadoes. This was just the biggest and most devastating one.
Were there 3?
No, I think there was more. There was I don't know. They listed them all. There was a lot. There's like 6 or 7, I think.
Jeez, get it together, storm system. We were on the 333s.
But yeah, so this one was just a beast. It was insane. And weather,
no pun intended.
Meteorologist. I was going to say weather people.
Oh.
Meteorologists have studied this storm and this tornado, and they said there's not one real reason why this monster of a tornado happened. It was just a bunch of things kind of happening at the right time with the right conditions to make this monster thing happen.
Yep. It's all about perfect timing, perfect conditions, just all that shitty stuff.
Have you ever been in a tornado, Jess?
No. There was one. They're close by within. Sorry, I don't know why this is so difficult for me. They are usually around my city. So I live near a big city, and we're surrounded by lakes all around us because we're obviously in Ontario. We have a lot of fucking lakes. And the areas surrounding us usually get the tornadoes. They're not huge or anything. And a tornado went through a neighborhood like 15 minutes from my house in the city, but it was on like the
Oh, okay.
outskirts. So, but yeah, so we get the warnings all the time and little ones touch down here and
Mm-hmm.
there, but we don't get these like massive ones. We don't
Yeah.
have tornado bunkers or
Yeah.
anything.
Yeah, we didn't either in Michigan, but we get a tornado here and there. Not like you do in Tornado
Yeah.
Alley, but we did get hit with a straight line windstorm, which has speeds of wind comparable to a tornado, and it tore the roof of my house off while I was in it. I was in middle school.
Oh my
Yeah, it was
gosh.
terrifying.
That would
You
be
know, it's funny. I
terrifying.
remember, so I have to have a fan to sleep. I have to have the noise of a fan. And in the summer, I'd put the fan in the window.
Yes.
I was upstairs in my bedroom, and I'm a really light sleeper. And I heard the fan starting to go faster and faster and faster. And it freaked me out. I was in middle school and I was little. So I ran into my parents' room and I hopped on their bed, and my brother followed shortly after. He must have woken up too. And I looked out my parents' window and I saw something fly by. Like,
Oh
yeah, like
gosh.
not like a leaf, it was like a piece of something big. And I said, Dad, there's stuff flying around out there. And so he like looked out the window, and he said as soon as he got up, he felt the pressure from the window. So he yelled at us to get
Oh.
off the bed. And as soon as we did, the windows frame and everything blew in. And so we ran out into the hallway. My mom got hit with the door. The door snapped off and hit my mom, but she was okay.
Oh no.
And we ran, at the time, our living area was upstairs. And then we had it was kind of like a basement, but not really. It was a little bit underground, but mostly above ground, if that makes sense. So there was a back
Okay.
room that we had. So we ran to the back room. But when we were running in the upstairs hall, I had on a big baggy t-shirt for like a pajama shirt. And when our roof came off, the pressure of it kind of pulled my shirt up, like not off, just like blew it kind of up. And I remember
Oh.
thinking, I feel like I'm in The Wizard of Oz, which is my favorite movie.
Oh.
And then we got downstairs, and my dog at the time ran into the living room. So my dad had to yell for him, and he finally ran down to us. And I remember sitting in the basement waiting, and we lived in a duplex at the time. So our neighbors were kind of banging on the wall, and they're like, "Are you okay?" And we're like, "Yeah, are you guys okay?" And they're like, "Yeah." And then after it was over, my dad said he walked out into the hall and looked upstairs, and he's like, it didn't really like hit, like it didn't connect in his brain, but all of a sudden he saw a flash of lightning looking up from our hallway, and he's like, oh my God, the roof is gone.
Oh
So
no.
then police were there, and fire trucks and everything, and they told us we had to get out of our house because it wasn't stable. So we had to leave. And at the time, well, and even now, people were shitty. So they started looting. So they blocked off our whole neighborhood. You couldn't get in unless you showed them your ID to prove that you lived there. Because we had left. I
Trash
know.
bags.
And then when we came back, we had to show them our ID and everything to get back in. And my cat, we couldn't find her. And we found her upstairs under a bed. She was still alive. Ever
Oh.
since then, she was terrified of storms. I mean, she's obviously passed by
No
now, but
kidding.
yeah, but we found her, and I cried. I was so happy she was my cat. And then we found this bag of chips that hadn't been opened yet, but the storm opened it from the pressure. I don't know why I remember that. I just do. And it took a long, long time for insurance to get their shit together and fix our house. But we had like the governor come to our neighborhood, and we had one of my friends at the time. I think he was like in the middle of running to get down the stairs, and the whole front of their house caved in. And he fell out with it with
Jeez.
his dad and was like under some rubble, but he was fine. And then a week later, he was at school and fell off the monkey bars and broke his arm.
Oh my gosh. That's so
But
super.
then there's a really, really cool story from that. So this older lady fell asleep in her chair upstairs. And she was in the house on the other, because we lived in a neighborhood of duplexes. So on the other side of my friend's duplex, and the one where the whole front of the house fell out, and she was pulled out with it. And she landed in the street and she was really hurt. And her sister lived down the street. And there was a man there that helped get her up and helped walk her to her sister's. And she got in and her sister got her help and everything. And as far as I know, no one ever figured out who that man was. He did not, as far as we know, he did not live in the neighborhood. Nobody recognized his description. Nobody ever saw him again. And she truly thinks it was her guardian angel helping her.
What if he was a serial killer?
Why would it? What?
Well, I was just thinking maybe it's just a serial killer. He's out and about, strutting around a neighborhood he doesn't know.
In the middle of a straight line windstorm where everybody's house are getting destroyed?
Well, he would have been out before that happened. You don't plan when you're gonna go
I think he would have
strolling
gotten
for your
blown
next
away.
snack. Well, you never know.
Anyway, everybody thinks it was a guardian angel that helped her to her sisters.
That's a much nicer thought.
You psychopath.
It's this podcast, I swear.
So that is my tornado story.
Okay.
Yeah. You absolute psychopath.
Oh my God, I'm sorry. I don't know why. It's just the thought. I just, it could have been a cool story for you. You almost came in contact with a serial killer in a tornado.
I would rather come in contact with a guardian angel.
I guess that's a legitimate thing.
And why would a serial
Whatever.
killer help her to her sister's house? Is like a nice serial killer?
Well, to throw off his
Oh, yes,
scent,
of course. Of course.
right? They always seem that they're nice with the pillar of the community. So you never know.
You're so weird.
Yeah, but I'm your
You
weirdo.
are. You're my weirdo.
All right, so we're gonna move on before this turns into something it doesn't need to. Anywho, so people, I'm gonna tell you right now, look up this photo. It's called The Hands Resist Him. Look it up so that you are following along with me on this beautiful journey.
I will not be looking
Okay?
it up, but thank you for the offer.
Ashley, you have to look it up. You're part of this.
Okay.
Okay, look it up.
Okay, I'm looking it up right now.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not.
Look it up.
I'm looking it up right now.
Or let me screen share with you.
No. Am I gonna get haunted?
No.
Lying?
No.
Is it like the doll where if you like talk about it, it haunts you?
No. Just let me screen share.
Fine, but if you're lying to me and I get haunted, I will kill you and then haunt you.
Okay. Enable sharing.
No.
Yes.
I mean, no, that's not what I wanted. Not no to you.
Oh.
I clicked on the wrong. Okay, that should be good.
Okay. You ready?
Mm-hmm. Oh my. What the fuck is that?
So for those of you
Genuinely, what
that
the
are
fuck?
hopefully you're all following along with this photo, because I want to explain it first.
Get it off my
This
screen.
photo. So this photo basically entails a 5-year-old little boy and an eyeless doll standing in front of a paned door. And
I just took it off the screen.
oh, I was wondering what happened. I thought I was having a stroke. Okay. So they are standing in front of this paned door, and you can see in the background some hands, disembodied hands, reaching out to them. This little girl, like I said, has no eyes. She looks like a doll, and she's holding, I don't even know what she's holding. It's like a can or something.
And the boy looks like
And
Hank
the
Hill if he was little.
totally does. Yes, the 5-year-old little boy looks like Hank Hill if he was a child, but he's staring, he's just gazing
Ew.
gazing at you. And the doll has a frown on her face, and she's standing right next to him.
Well, I'd be sad too if my only friend looked like Hank Hill.
So, this is the painting, The Hands That Resist Him. And it was painted by a man named William Stoneham, who was born in Boston, Massachusetts in 1947. Despite hearing that his mother had painted portraits, he never actually met his biological parents. But how cool that you become an artist without actually knowing your
Yeah.
parents, and your parent was
Yeah,
an
that is
artist.
cool.
That's so
Yeah.
cool. Stoneham is a surrealist painter. He compares his paintings to cinema stills, encapsulating scenes in stories that leave the audience wondering what just happened or what will happen next. And all of his photos, I looked at them. He has a website, which is where I got some of this stuff from. It's called williamstoneham.pixels.com. And I used Listverse and telegraph.co. But if you go to his website, it has a lot of his paintings on there. And they're very apocalyptic looking and very futuristic in my mind. So I recommend looking at his photos because they are very, very well done. They're very well done. He became an artist in 1972, not without his struggles, and he sold a painting called The Hands Resist Him, which was a self-portrait of himself as a 5-year-old.
Oh, oops. Sorry, dude.
And he sold this to Charles Chuck Feingarten. And 26 years later, his painting went viral.
Oh.
He said, I had an old family photo album at the time. One of the pictures I had of myself caught my attention. He says, to start with, the lighting was really dramatic, shining down on me and the girl who lived next door. Adding that he put the disembodied hands through the window to symbolize the remoteness and sense of unrealized possibilities that came with being adopted.
That is not what I got from that painting.
And I honestly, I get it.
Nope.
No?
It's supposed to
You
be
don't get
something
it?
like that. The way he's talking about it, it's supposed to be something positive, like the things that could whatever you said. What did you just say?
The unrealized possibilities.
Yeah. Well, I guess unrealized isn't a good thing. It's just a lot more.
It's very creepy.
Very creepy. It's a lot more like what's the word I'm looking for? Ominous.
Yes. It is very hard to get past that, especially when he made the little neighbor girl into a creepy ass
with
doll.
No eyes.
With no
Why doesn't
eyes.
she have eyes?
I don't
Sir. Sir. And then who's the creep that bought this? Charles. I'm very upset about this.
It's a very interesting painting. Okay?
It's something.
It's a very It's a very specific style.
I would buy that for a Halloween decoration.
Yeah.
It's super creepy.
It is super creepy.
Sorry, continue. I don't know why I'm so
Anyways.
worked up about this.
His wife at the time wrote a poem which inspired the painting's title.
Hmm.
And this is the poem. He is of the seeing visions. His strokes reveal them in a rush of color, of madness, of mystics. And his head is in the highest center. It must confront its enemy. The hands resist him, like the secret of his birth. His presence is the sanctum heartbeat, felt in darkness and in passion. Its sound, the sole gift to that silence.
That's very pretty. I don't
Right?
get it, but it's pretty.
Yeah. It is nice,
Yeah, it's
though.
really pretty.
I think it's talking about his adoption,
Okay.
right? Because it says, like, the secret of his
Mhm.
birth. But I don't know. It was his wife that
Yeah.
wrote it, so maybe she wrote it about
Yeah.
him. Maybe she
It's
just
very pretty. I
had
like it.
a mind of her own, too. So this painting, like I said, became viral 26 years after it was sold. And in the eBay ad, it wrote, "This painting may or may not possess supernatural powers that could impact or change your life."
Oh.
The year is 2000, and an anonymous couple decided that they wanted to sell this painting that they had found. When they found the painting in an abandoned brewery, they decided that the best place for it was on the wall of their 4-year-old's bedroom.
Lots of questions. How did it get to an abandoned brewery?
We don't know.
Why were they in an abandoned brewery?
Also don't know. Maybe they were just looking for, maybe it's not like creepy abandoned like we're thinking. I don't know. Maybe they're just like looking for furniture. Who knows? But
And why the 4-year-old's bedroom?
that I don't understand.
That poor child probably woke up with that in its face.
They liked it. They thought it was pretty. I don't
Some
know.
people shouldn't be parents. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean,
some people shouldn't be parents, but not for that reason.
the eBay listing even included, "One morning, our 4.5-year-old daughter claimed that the children in the picture were fighting and coming into the room during the night."
Burn it all down. Burn it all down.
How
Oh
horrifying.
my gosh.
Obviously disturbed by this story, they decided to set up a camera in their daughter's room so that they could potentially capture whatever was going on.
Okay.
The sellers indicated that they were positive there was no supernatural activity involved and that everything could be explained. But they couldn't deny that there was something wrong with the painting. They wrote, "To deter questions in this direction, there are no ghosts in this world, no supernatural powers. There is no odor left behind in the room, and there were no voices or the smell of gunpowder, no footprints or strange fluids on the wall."
Okay. But it was creepy.
Yeah. And if your child is saying they're coming out of the painting at night and fighting, you burn it to the
Burn
fucking
it
ground.
to the ground.
Yeah. You don't care about it, your house anymore. Nevertheless, there were photos One's captured by the motion sensor camera that cast the doll-like figure in a much darker light, almost implying that she was pointing a gun at the young boy and trying to like usher him out of the photo.
Can we see these photos online?
Yeah. Ah! Oh,
So
sorry
first
about
of all,
that.
Jessica's daughter scared the crap out of her, which is hilarious.
Middle of talking about this creepy ass painting, and this fucking 3-year-old just whips my closet door open. And this closet is not a big closet. Like the door opens and it hits my chair. So and then a little redhead pops up going,
Hi, mommy. And then also I looked up the picture of the eBay picture where it looks like she's pointing a gun at the little boy. And like it does, but
it doesn't.
yeah, like it does and it
Honestly,
doesn't. Like if you use your
because
imagination, I can see where they came to that. But it is just the
and the
picture with
lighting.
the lighting. Yeah.
Yeah, because the canister, if you guys haven't looked up the photo, so this little girl's holding, they said it was a cell. So it has like a little wire sticking out of it. So in the right lighting, it could look like she's holding a gun.
Well, and it plays into the
The
frame
way
of
that
the
it
window too. Yeah.
exactly. Yes. So and the barrel is basically like the
Yeah.
window
Yeah.
thing.
So, I mean, if you
So
like look, you can see it's like looking at a cloud, and seeing some
yeah,
shape in a cloud.
exactly. So they even said the listers even said it was probably a fluke lighting effect. So they even dismissed it, but it is kind of cool. Individuals who saw this listing reported experiencing strange side effects, such as fainting or being extremely sick. Children started to cry out, and some felt as though an unseen entity was pulling them in
To the ad or the picture?
to the
You
picture.
bitch. You bitch. You told me I was safe, and I have stared at that thing.
I had literally told you I'm doing a story on a haunted painting, and you trusted me.
You bitch. All right. Listeners, dear listeners, you heard it here first. If I get haunted, I'm killing Jessica. But also, don't tell the cops I said that, dude. Don't be snitches. Be cool. Be cool. Be cool. Listeners, be cool.
Snitches get stitches, you bitches. One woman felt like her throat was being tightened by an unknown entity.
Oh.
A new Epson printer that ate and mutilated page after page when the user tried to download images of the painting was reported by another.
Oh, so your printer just
And
sucked.
yeah. And another claimed to have heard a voice like that from The Exorcist.
I heard a voice from The Exorcist tonight, and it was my daughter screaming. So there we are.
One person indicated that the kids came out of the painting, so that's a second corroboration. He also indicated that when he had a printout of the painting, so just like a copy, I guess, that his air conditioner broke when he wasn't home for a couple of months, and green mold grew everywhere except on that print of the painting.
Oh, that's creepy. I thought you were just going to say that green mold. I was like, yeah, that's what happens. And then, okay, that's creepy.
Yeah. Despite this, early internet users were intrigued. In just 30 days, the auction went from an initial offer of $199 to a final price of $1,050.
Oh, okay.
And that doesn't sound like a lot for today, but back then it was just kind of ramping
Yeah.
up. So that was like unheard of. It was like one of the first like biggest eBay
Oh, okay.
auctions. Yeah. Ever since the eBay auction gave the hands resist him a newfound supernatural dimension, people have been quick to draw attention to the fatalities that occurred during its 1974 exhibition. On the eve of his 53rd birthday in 1978, Henry Seldis, the Los Angeles Times art critic who reviewed Stoneham's show, appeared to take his own life.
Oh, shit.
However, acquaintances said that Seldis had been melancholy since the start of his divorce.
Oh, yeah.
So take it with a grain of salt. After selling the picture, Feingarten passed away 3 years later. Which, how is that related to the photo, to the painting?
30 years later, they passed away of cancer. Suspicious.
Yeah.
Also, when you said
So,
that he was feeling sad since his divorce, I said, oh, yeah. But I realized I was on mute. So,
oh,
but yes, okay. It was like, oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
yeah. So it's so weird. It's like 3 years later he died, and this is directly related. Like, come on.
Yeah.
And another person named Marley died from open heart surgery 3 years after that, which again is just
And open heart surgery is
something that
risky to begin
happens.
with. Like,
Yeah, it's something that happens.
10 years later, they died when they jumped off a cliff. Crazy.
Yeah. Well, that was the same thing with like Tutankhamun's curse, right? It's like all these people die, but they died like 10 years later. So it's like, really, was it the curse of the tomb
Or was it
was it
just
just
people
life?
die?
Yeah, was it just life?
Well, I would like everybody to know that I am not depressed and I am healthy. So if I die in 3 years, we can chalk it up to this painting.
Not even Stoneham has truly figured out how the hands resist him wound up at an abandoned brewery. About the eBay listing, he remarked, "That's what makes it so bizarre. Feingarten is the owner of these paintings. He just sells them. I don't see what's what, and I don't live in Los Angeles." So he has like no idea what has happened to this painting since he sold it. He's like, why the fuck are you
He's like, I
asking?
don't care. I sold it. I'm done with it.
Yeah. Although Stoneham is occasionally asked to replace the hands resist him, he declines. Not out of an eerie intuition, but simply because he thinks it's a lie,
Oh,
which I
yeah.
get. Why would you want to redo the same art piece over and over
Yeah,
again? There is can There is currently a series of images that allude to possible future events. Resistance at the Threshold, which debuted in 2004, featured a partially disembodied doll portrayed Stoneham as a middle-aged man.
And kill.
Yeah, you're welcome. So, first one was a little boy, and then he was a middle-aged man. By 2012, the doll had actually become a real girl. I'm a real boy now. And Stoneham had portrayed himself as much older, nearly 100. The Threshold of Revelation is the name of the picture.
Oh.
Being that he had reunited with his biological sister, whom he was unaware that he had, it held immense meaning for him. In that third painting, the doll was no longer a doll but a living child, he said. It was while I was working on that painting and its title that I found her, referring to his sister. It was a very powerful feeling to realize it, that this was my sister, and that there was this whole space of memories that had always been there, but I just had to find the right window to get to it. And I'm pretty sure his sister died 3 years later, which is so sad that
I don't mean to laugh at that. It's just because previously people died 3 years later.
Yes. Yeah. So I'm glad he found his sister.
Yeah, that's very sweet.
It's just very sad that they didn't have more time
Yeah.
together. The Hands Invent Him, the series' last painting, debuted in 2017. This time, the young Stoneham and the doll's silhouettes are visible outside of the window. And then on the inside is Stoneham, as that 5-year-old little boy it looks like.
Oh.
And then a lot of, anyways, it has a bunch. It's hard to explain if you don't look at the photo.
What's it called?
The Hands Invent Him.
The Hands.
So it's
Invent.
basically like Stoneham is inside while the two silhouettes are outside. And he is like the puppet master of all these hands and all these creepy ass toys. And he's the one on the inside making these hands look the way they look on the outside.
Lots of questions about this one.
Yes. Yeah. It'll make sense in like 2 sentences. Okay. When challenged, Stoneham claims he believes in memories rather than ghosts, but he is most certain there is something eerie about his artwork. The artwork, which was commissioned, can you guess by whom?
That
Our favorite ghost dude.
Zach Baggins? Oh my God. He's not our favorite. She's being sarcastic.
Whom, if you don't know who he is the host of the American paranormal documentary series called Ghost Adventures. And it has the artist surrounded by the kind of stuff that you'd find on the set of a horror film. Overgrown dead trees and oddly animated toys are in this photo. So yeah.
The toys are crawling out of the floor, first of all.
Yeah.
Second of all, he made himself look like a 10-year-old little boy with a receding hairline.
Well, he has a receding hairline, I'm sure.
But why did he make himself look so young?
Well, because it was the photos, like it was the paintings were of him when he was younger.
With a receding hairline? You got to pick one or the other.
He could just be very blonde, Ashley.
He's got brown hair.
Well,
it's weird. It's all weird. What was the other one? The Revelations one? What was that one called?
Yeah. The Threshold of Revelation.
That one's not so bad. Oh, I just found the hands.
You just found the hands? Yeah.
The rest of it's not so bad. If there weren't hands, it's not a bad picture.
Oh, I don't like it.
It kind of reminds me of like Hidden Garden or The Secret Garden.
Yeah, which one are you looking at?
Wait, am I not looking at the right one? Threshold of Revelation?
I don't know. There's a couple that are popping up for me.
It's the old man with a fish and a little girl holding a mask and then hands behind the old man.
Oh, see, I have that one, but I also have another one where it's the old man and the little girl is a doll hanging off the wall with her face coming off and a bunch of hands in the background.
What? I don't see that one at all.
Screen share. Oh, I'll just screen share.
That's way worse.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was looking at the one on the right.
Yeah.
Which is not bad.
But
do you see all the hands there?
Yeah, I did. I think this is the original, like the Threshold one is the one where it's nice and he's fishing.
There's a bird and a little girl with a mask and
ew,
now you
I
see all the hands. Yeah.
That's disgusting. They're all coming out of the water.
It's like it's like it's making my what's it called, the tryptophobia or whatever, go off.
Oh, gross.
Anywho.
Anyway, sorry, I was looking at other photos. So, anyways, this guy's art is creepy to me, but I'm sure it's very lovely to other people. And Zach Bagans commissioned him, which is kind of cool. Because he's a weirdo, but he
super famous and
is a
super
successful
rich.
weirdo. Yeah. Stoneham says of Baggins, I never asked him about the elements I put in the painting, but when I showed it to him, he had some of them in his collection of haunted things.
Oh.
There's a communication going on.
Oh.
In addition, strange occurrences occurred while Stoneham was creating the artwork. As he was painting the tiles in the picture, strange substances appeared from the floor and rats broke into his workshop.
Oh.
Currently on display at Baggins Haunted Museum in Las Vegas is the Hands Invention. So that's really cool. And Kim Smith, the owner of I believe, Michigan Gallery in Grand Rapids.
That's where I'm from.
I know. Placed the highest offer for eBay's haunted painting. And the painting is currently on display in Grand Rapids, Michigan. It's Smith's Perception Fine Art Gallery's back room.
Oh.
Smith's sons requested that it be moved from their family home, where they believed it to be the most haunted painting in the world.
Oh, wow.
And that's my creepy story.
I loved it. That was so good.
Yeah. Oh, thanks. Yeah, so I think it's just lighting tricks.
Yeah.
Lighting tricks, but it is creepy.
Yeah, for sure.
But even just looking at the original photo, it's like, oh yeah, she could totally be holding a gun if you're not looking close enough because of the window pane. So take it with what you will. But it's still pretty cool.
It's still a creepy painting on its own. Doesn't even need the gun thing. It's creepy.
Yeah, just the doll with no eyes.
And the hands.
Yeah. Terrifying. Anyways, I have some jokes. Yeah, we're ready. What did the headlines say when a child psychic escapes from jail?
He saw it coming.
Small, medium, at large.
I like that. I like that a lot.
I like that your laugh built as you got more into the joke.
I liked it a little bit, and then I liked it more and more.
And then you liked it a lot. You liked it a little, a medium, and a lot. What do Kermit the Frog and Attila the Hun have in common?
I don't know what.
The same middle name.
Oh, that's stupid.
You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. I didn't want to believe my wife was stealing from her job in road work, but when I got home, all the signs were there.
That's so stupid.
And that's all the jokes.
I love it. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. If you want more of us lovely ladies, you can find us on Patreon for $3. You can get a bonus monthly episode and a sticker and a card with our lovely signatures. We are also on TikTok, kind of, YouTube, and Instagram and Facebook.
Yes. And if you would like to rate and review us, you can do so on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to bringing you tuna stories next week. Bye.
Bye.